our new faculty workshop. We want to thank you for joining us for this interactive workshop. We would like to also give a special welcome to all of our new faculty. We are so glad that you've joined our community here at SMC. And if you're continuing and getting ready for the next semester, welcome back. So let's see here. I think I have a message. Sorry, I saw a message that popped up. Maybe you can see those messages, Leah, from your end. All right. So next slide, Leah, we're ready. So I am Erin Q, and I am the chair of the new faculty committee. I started this committee with the help of the previous president, Nate Donahue, last semester as a way to help new faculty begin to transition to SMC, to make a smooth and successful transition. I see some of our committee members here today. If you can wave at us. Our committee was created to help you get acclimated to the campus and the many resources that are on our campus. We also want to make sure that you had an opportunity to build community amongst new faculty and to offer opportunities for you to create spaces so that you can ask questions, whether to new faculty or to us, as well as to have dialogue with one another. Our committee has been working very hard on a year-long program which introduces you to various aspects of our campus, including academic support, student support, and it even has a mentoring component where we hope that we can team you up with a mentor that's outside of your department. Okay, this program is voluntary, but we do hope that you will join us and get involved. As we all know, cohort models have been successful in the past in helping us get acclimated to campuses and have a smooth transition. Many of us may know this from our graduate programs. And I'm going to turn it over to the co-host, Kevin.
Thank you, Erin. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I know you've had a really long but also exciting day getting to network and meet and get all of this knowledge. So we hope that all of you find this useful. Whether you're a new faculty, you're just starting out here at SMC, or you've been here and you want to learn more and you want to, draw more, we're also grateful to have you as well. So my name is Kevin Chicas. I'm chair for the Equity and Diversity Committee of the Academic Senate. We handle academic and professional affairs concerning faculty with respect to diversity practices and protocols at SMC. We also engage in active dialogue with campus groups, affinity groups, equity leaders, practitioners to help assess programs and strategies to help promote equity and making sure that what we're doing is working in concert with other initiatives that also are in support of our equity plan. So this workshop is really a sort of the fruits of this sort of emerged from conversations that Erin and I had over the past year. I was really excited that there was this new committee emerging at SMC that was going to be active in mentoring new faculty, and coming from a place of just practice and working with people in terms of the work that our committee is doing, I thought that it would be essential to start to build bridges to see how my committee could help Erin's committee, but also to glean from what her committee is doing, what they plan to do, so that we can build the mutual network of support. Equity doesn't work at SMC unless you build systems of support with other practitioners, with students, with people who really care about, the future of the college. So that's where it stemmed from, and we're so excited to sort of start this. It's kind of it's sort of a beginning, very much like the beginning of the journey that all of you have. Yep,
for sure. Next slide, Liam. So this is just an overview of what we're going to be covering. It's going to be a tight, in sense of time, workshop, right? So we're going to go pretty quickly through some of these things because we want to make sure that we give you as much resources and examples as possible. So we'll start out by defining what equity is and why we should focus on equity-minded practices. Then we'll move on to sharing 2 equitable teaching practices that we hope will be beneficial to you at the beginning of your SMC journey and this semester. But I want to pause right here to say that we're going to give you a lot of resources and examples, but we don't expect for you to implement these in the next 4 days, right? But we do hope that some of the things that we share with you will inspire you to maybe make a couple of changes, simple, small changes, maybe to your homepage or to your welcome letter before you get started, and then maybe go back in the future, okay? Lastly, we'll discuss what it means to be on a journey toward more equitable teaching practices. Please note that in the presentation, we have tried to leave some space for you to interact with your colleagues and to discuss and share some of the items that we have on the agenda. But we ask that you hold questions until these times, because again, it's going to be a tight presentation. Next slide.
So obviously the theme of this year's Professional Development Day, and it's a message that has been articulated and communicated repeatedly, is finding out a way to act on equity, on equitizing our institution, finding a ways to get us to a much better place. So what does that mean for all of us as members of this community? It means in thinking about how we can commit ourselves to helping create or support fair and just practices that allow all of our students, our Black students, our Latinx students, our Dreamers, our undocumented students, our PETA students to, reach their full potential and thrive. Always having an acknowledgement that all of our students come from different learning levels, and each of them come to the classrooms with a unique story. They were there for a reason, and they've encountered and will be encountering very unique challenges that will often get in the way of their goals. So part of our job is to try to find a way to meet them where they're at. And what does that mean? Getting an understanding as to what they already know, what they want to do, what they want to learn, and to also find ways to make adjustments and mini calibrations to make sure that they're able to complete the classes that we teach and to be successful. We also want to center race and ethnicity, and how it has an impact on our students' opportunities, access to opportunities to learn. And as we all know, or as we're coming to learn, right, that minoritized students often are negatively impacted by existing systemic inequities that happen institutionally, that happen within the campus itself, that happen in our classrooms. And we have to be able to always be cognizant of that impact and to find ways to unpack that, to deconstruct it, so that we can help the students that are most being impacted and those that are in need. We also want to give our students so many opportunities. Often when we talk about equity, we often talk about how students are struggling, how students are suffering, how students are slipping through the cracks. But let's think about a shift in mindset and think about looking at what we can do, what seeds we can plant, what opportunities we can give our students so that they can have transformative educational experiences. And that's where you come in as an educator. You have this amazing, great opportunity beginning this fall semester to inculcate, to plant that seed, to make that learning experience a memorable one for your students. And also giving them the opportunity to have engaging social experiences with one another. We're going to be looking at some of this stuff briefly, but one of the things that is very much connected to the issue of equity is making sure that our students are validated, that they belong, that they're connected, that they're tethered to our community. So we want to be able to give them those opportunities to socialize, to connect with their peers, to connect with you as a practitioner, because you are their advocate. You are supporting them. We want to also, from a sort of a meta level, place, there are initiatives and projects that are focused on closing achievement gaps, that are focused on ensuring that we have parity in educational outcomes amongst our most impacted students. And that is something that many of us are really active in. We're dedicated to this. And these are just things that often we don't see in the classrooms, right? This is like big scale stuff, but we all should be cognizant of it. And most importantly, equity is not a means to an end. The theme of this workshop is about starting that journey, right? Getting to that place where you are aware of all of these things, some of the things that we've been talking about, thinking about how you are working to reshape the way that you teach, the way that you go about sharing your passion for teaching, your own pedagogy, bringing yourself, your story to the classroom, whether it be virtual or ground. Those things means that you're kind of, that's the starting point for equity. You know, you have to do all this work to get there, and that's where it begins. And equity is a accountability project, which means that we are all working to find the wrongs, the harms that we have done, and to make the necessary changes to break from some traditions, innovate, experiment, so that we can go to a better place. And it also means holding ourselves accountable as well.
Yep, perfect. Next slide, Leah. Thank you, Kevin. So as you're embarking on this journey, we encourage you to think about the environment in which you're teaching and the students you are serving. So similar to other higher ed institutions, SMC is continuing to become more diverse and be a more accurate representation of our society. So this is one of the main reasons why we're saying that equitable teaching practices matter. So here at SMC, majority of the students we serve come from underrepresented groups. As a Hispanic serving institution, we serve a large number of low-income students, first-generation students, and students from historically, racially, and ethnically minoritized groups. As you can see on the chart that we have to the right here. So as you go into your classes this semester, we want you to remember, for many racially and ethnically minoritized students, the issues of belonging or feeling a part of the community is often a challenging one. They often feel marginalized and isolated. And so remember, your class and even the college environment has a major impact on their sense of belonging. So keep in mind that with few exceptions, such as historically Black colleges and universities being the most notable of those, higher education institutions, were founded and designed to serve white students, particularly those who are male, middle, upper class, heterosexual, able-bodied, and Christian. And so we still see this evidence in our policies, in our educational policies and practices. So in general, equitable teaching practices encourages us as educators to be more responsive to the unique needs of diverse students that we serve. Next slide, Leah. So this wheel reminds us that each of our students bring various aspects of their culture into our classrooms: race, ethnicity, social class, language use, gender, sexual orientation. All these are major aspects of their identity and how they frame or see the world, how they experience the world. So for example, they may carry the idea that for some of their identities, they are perceived in particular ways by society, and they bring these ideas into your classroom, okay? So it's important for you as educators to reflect on your practices and who you are as an educator. Take some time and think about these questions that we have on the screen before you begin your class. How am I getting to know my students? How am I acknowledging culture and differences? How am I acknowledging and respecting every student? How am I practicing cultural sensitivity? And how am I confronting issues of power and privilege? So we're going to jump right into our first activity in our first equitable teaching practice.
Next slide, Leah.
Sorry.
So we asked you at the beginning as you were walking in, jumping in on the call to have your syllabi ready. We thought we'd kind of start and get going and thinking about the ways in which we could start to incorporate equitable teaching practices, with starting with that most essential document to every class, which is the syllabi. And typically we look at our syllabi as primarily a contract, right, between our students and ourselves, in which we delineate the norms, the rules, the procedures of how to go about communicating what our expectations are of them. But thinking about it from an equity lens, let's reimagine the syllabi as an opportunity to be able to demystify and unpack those existing hidden rules and norms, and to communicate what we intend to teach and how to intend to teach. So we hope through this exercise, you can see, you can have opportunities to assess how you've created your syllabi, and to consider ways in which you can modify it, finesse it, and change it so that you're able to you're able to take that existing document and you're able to use it as a means of communication and as a learning tool for your students.
Next slide, Leah.
So this is what we're going to have all of you do. You're going to be put into breakout rooms, 3 breakout rooms. And in each of those breakout rooms, you're going to see a sample of an example syllabus. And all of these syllabi actually come from actual SMC faculty who generously volunteered sharing what they're using in their classes. So just to set some ground rules in terms of what's going to happen when you're put in the breakout room. Make sure to introduce yourself, make sure that everyone has an opportunity to talk, have someone be a timekeeper since you're going to be given 10 minutes to do this activity, and see if you can get a person to be a note taker to track and record important points, things that come up as you go about doing this exercise. So when you enter the breakout room, you're going to access what we call a digital notebook with each of those samples of that syllabi. So we want you to look at the syllabi, that page that you're going to be looking at in your respective breakout room, and we want you to contemplate the following questions. Imagine reading this syllabus as a student from an underrepresented group, Latinx student, an APITA student, a dreamer. What do you think they might appreciate in the syllabi that they're looking at as they're going through that first day, that first week, they're taking your class? And in what ways is that portion, that segment of the syllabus achieving some of the benefits of an equitable syllabus? In other words, what do you see? Can you highlight, can you pinpoint what aspects of that sample you feel are equitable? So as you're doing this exercise, you're going to be highlighting and leaving comments on the digital notebook. I'm going to show you how to do that. And make sure that as you're having the discussions, you're looking through your selective example syllabi to be prepared to share 1 or 2 examples that you think address each of the questions above. And the goal here is to not just tear down and critique what's there. It's to just look at, what aspects, what portions of that syllabi will connect with students and are grounded in equity.
Yep, make sure you have the link that I just put in the chat before you head over to your breakout rooms. I'm about to open all the rooms. For the sake of time, we'll go to each room to make sure everybody is understanding all the instructions. But basically, you're just going to highlight the words that you see, and then a plus sign will come up to the right. You'll see an example on, I think, like page 2 or 3. But if your group needs to divide the paragraph so that you can tell the note taker what to write. So I'm going to put you in your rooms now. You have 10 minutes. We'll hop around to make sure everybody is okay. All right, here we go. So you should see your rooms. Go ahead and join. Go ahead and join if you see your rooms. All right. We still have some left in the main room. If you see the sign that says join your room, you can do that.
Erin, I'm not going to join because they're having, I don't know, Zoom problems. So I'm like,
no, you don't need to join. I'm trying to make sure that others are okay. Valerie and Layla, are you all good? Did you see your room?
No, I'm on my cell phone. I'm wondering, can you see a room from your phone, or where would I go?
I think so, but let me just see what room you're supposed to be in, Valerie.
I was going to say, I can assign her to a room from my end.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, perfect.
What does it matter which room?
No, it doesn't.
I got it.
Layla, I see you're in room 1.
Oh, here we go. No, it's up.
Okay, perfect. Layla's in room 1. Salvador, you're in room 1. And I'm sorry, I think it's Kane. You're in room 3. All right, I'm gonna hop around a little bit. Okay, I'm not sure where Kevin went. He's probably roaming around. I'm gonna look at the document.
All right, so it's 2:30.
Oh, there you are. I was like, I didn't know where you were.
Yeah, I was
see-
just hopping back and forth. Seems like
Okay, me too.
everyone's
I
good.
see highlighting, but I don't see comments.
Should we broadcast a message to everybody, letting them know to put a comment?
Yeah, don't forget to put a comment if you can. Can you do that? I don't know if I can. And we went over just a little bit, Kevin, so we have to kind of speed through these a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to jettison we can just go over one example from those 3 slides with the examples and then jump to,
Let's pull in 2 examples and then from the audience, and then we can just kind of quickly review. Yeah,
you can
like
just
maybe
quickly review the, what is it,
Yeah.
the tone?
Yeah, let's not try to, maybe we have to leave out the personal pieces.
Wait, which one should we skip?
No, I'm saying maybe leave out our personal experiences on them, because we were gonna add some of our own thoughts. Just kind of go through them real quickly.
Okay. And the reflect as well? Is that what you're talking about, the scan your syllabus?
No, we can go over that really quickly too. We just won't be able to like elaborate on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't want to skip over any slides?
We can if we need to. If you want to, we can go over the first 2 and skip. Let's skip the multiple learners.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip that slide. Yeah.
Doing good. It works. I see comments. I mean, I see highlights. I just don't see comment.
Okay. Well, I guess what we can do is just get them to share what comments they have. If they were not, didn't have to.
Group 4 is definitely giving a lot of comments.
Yeah. When I entered the room, I was like, oh, they already know what they're doing.
See some critiques too.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
Comments
fair.
are populating
Okay.
because we have 36
Because we're running
seconds.
out of time. Yeah, I think that's. Oops. Ooh. Oh, it's gonna be. I noticed an attendee in breakout room posted a lot of comments.
Nice.
And we also got comments for 2 and 1.
All right.
All right.
Close now.
Oh, we gotta move the slides up.
Go back 2 slides, Leah, for us, please. There we go. All right, so that was a little bit of a teaser because I know you could have spent more time sharing or commenting on those particular slides. Can we have 1 or 2 individuals or groups to share out some things that they saw about the syllabi that they felt were equitable? I see a lot of comments on the digital notebook. Thank you all for doing that. Hey, we don't have a lot of time, but I am an educational psychologist. I know what it means to be patient and quiet until someone shares.
I can name, in our group, we liked how the syllabi, some of the wording was really good. We felt the wording I particularly like was a climate of mutual respect. And then the statement on how the classroom would be, it's a two-way learning street. We're here to respect the different cultures, and everyone could learn as well. We would all be learning from each other. We also felt like maybe if the professor put or reinforced something like, it will also be a learning experience for me, that would make people feel comfortable. Like I'm not here as the expert on anything, I'm learning too, which we do as we, get a new group of 40 or however many students, that the learning is two ways.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Blurring the lines, Paulo Freire says, between the student and the learner. I love that. One more. Thank you, Valerie. And Valerie's new. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Kristen, 10 seconds. You want to share?
Thanks for calling on me, Erin. Our group really likes the
10 seconds.
Our group really liked the resources that the instructor placed in the syllabus, and the different multimedia aspects of the course too, being able to supplement the online learning with what is actually online. So
perfect. Thank you. And thank you for sharing. All right, Kevin.
All right, so just to kind of think about, in terms of takeaways and reflecting upon the exercise that you've done, we thought that it would be good to just highlight some things to consider in terms of how do we go about improving our syllabi so that they're more grounded in equity. And one thing that obviously often is addressed in terms of presenting this information via this document is the tone. So we wanted to kind of show a quick example of an unwelcoming tone in contrast to a welcoming tone in terms of talking about attendance and expectations of attendance. So here's an example of an unwelcoming statement regarding student attendance in classes. Students are expected to attend all class sessions. Lectures and other classwork will not be recreated for individual students. You are responsible for notifying me, the instructor, in advance of any absence or scheduling conflict via email. So as you see here, the tone puts the onus and all the responsibility on the student. So if you think about this from a perspective of equity, consider thinking about how to refinesse the way in which you lay out your expectation for attendance, for ensuring participation. So let's look at a much more welcoming statement concerning attendance in classes. You're encouraged to attend all class sessions, as your attendance will help you to get to know your classmates and Professor Wren better. However, I understand that life may get in the way and that it's not always possible to come to class. I will reach out to you to check in if you miss a significant amount of class meetings. I can help connect you with resources on campus that may help you with your well-being, health, food security, and other issues. I'll also help you make a plan for catching up with the material. There's quite a contrast here in the way in which the professor, the instructor, is delineating their expectations concerning attendance. And there's an effort, a concerted effort reflected in the language that professor, that instructor is going to help guide the student and is aware that there's circumstances that are out of their control that may affect their performance and them being in the class, but also redirected them to existing services, resources that exist at the college. And that's something that we can consider in terms of the language that we use, the tone that we use. There's also some examples in the top concerning, declarative statements, the difference between using warm and cold language. Commands are not often good to use. We always typically use them in our syllabi, so consider retailoring those to indentations. So that's sort of one example, some tactics, some tips that you can use with assessing the way by which you create your syllabus.
Next slide, Leah. So the other thing that you may have saw in some of these syllabi is thinking about how do we articulate the norms and or hidden rules? So next slide, Leah, when you get a chance, sorry. So one question that you may ask is, does your equitable syllabi articulate the norms and or hidden rules? So when you're reviewing your syllabus, what type of hidden rules are you providing or are you seeing? Are students fully understanding what you're writing? I saw a comment about, what is pedagogical? I saw that, the student understand what that means. Another good example about the hidden rules or hidden curriculum is something as simple as office hours, right? So if you look at the before and after here, right, we're assuming that the students that we serve, whether the first generation college students or whoever is in our classroom, knows what office hours are when we put something like on the left. And many of us have done this. Here are the office hours, the location, here's the best way to contact me. But who is office hours for? So this right side actually tells students what are office hours. And I love that they changed the name to not office hours, but student hours. These are your hours. These are opportunities for you to come and visit with me. This is your time. This is your time to ask questions, to talk with me, whether it's about the class or whether it's about other things. So really kind of gauge in your syllabus, are there things in which students may not understand? Are there norms in which we assume they know, but maybe they don't know? And how can we help better prepare them? Next slide, Leah.
Go to the next slide, Leah.
Yeah.
Go to the next slide. Thank you.
So take a moment. So when we talked about just grabbing your syllabus, you can take a moment and you can even reflect on these things with your own syllabus. So Kevin will go over the first few bullet points of ways in which you can scan your syllabus for these equity-minded practices.
Sure.
And
so,
see whether or not.
Sure. So, one of the things that we need to consider is like, does your syllabi demonstrate inclusive content? So if you look at the digital notebook in the example syllabus, as well as the syllabus for the Anthro 5 class, you have that inclusion of an image with a quote highlighting someone in that respective field who comes from a different walk of life, comes from a different background. That is obviously an intent to think about how we can show the inclusivity within our respective disciplines. And you can embed that and you can present that even in a very simple way, in an elegant way, through the inclusion of such images. Does your syllabus value difference? And when we talk about valuing difference, we're talking about the differences in our students' social identities. So as we talked about at the beginning, that's important to know that our students come from different places, different learning levels. So there's ways in which you can embed that in your syllabus, in the language, to acknowledge and to center that students come with their own differences, and those things are valuable, and those things can help with the learning experience. Does your syllabus demonstrate multiple ways of learning? We didn't have time to go over this example because of time, but one attempt to demonstrate this or to show this is to explain in the syllabus, in a portion of segment of the syllabus, strategies, things that students can do to attack the material that they're asked to read, homework assignments, projects. Raise questions to them. How are you going to go about completing this assignment, this activity? Make that syllabus inviting. Bring them into that document so that they can be able to learn how to go about mastering that material. And lastly, as we went over, right, think about the tone. Think about including more warm and inclusive language, inviting language, right? And taking this document.
And so for the last four, think about, will underrepresented students see evidence of the following? What am I communicating to my students through my syllabi? Am I communicating care and support? Hopefully you saw that in some of the syllabi. Is my syllabi welcoming and inviting to students into the course? Does it demystify the process to be successful at SMC? Did it provide information to students on how they can be successful in your classroom, how they can navigate your classroom? Does your equitable syllabi validate? Remember, I told you when we said in the beginning that we have to validate our students, right? Does your equitable syllabi validate students and communicate to them that they are capable of obtaining their educational goals? Does it demonstrate a commitment to creating a partnership? I know that Valerie mentioned that the instructor said that we're learning, we're in this together, we're learning together, okay? A partnership with students on their path to success, meaning we're communicating a commitment to working with students and respect for students as learners. And then lastly, but not least, does it deconstruct the dominant norms and broader social inequities? Does it promote awareness and critical examination of students' assumptions, beliefs, and privileges? Are we asking them to think and reflect on those privileges that they may have? Okay, next slide. So our last equitable teaching practice that we're going to go over very briefly is building community in your online classes. As we mentioned in the beginning of this workshop, there might be a number of different cultures represented in your particular classroom. And when we look closer, we may begin to see certain patterns that exist within those particular cultures. Understanding these cultural archetypes can be useful in thinking about your classroom and the equity-minded teaching practices that you're implementing. For example, one common archetype is this orientation or this idea between individualism and collectivism. So for example, most mainstream cultures, especially here in America, are rooted in this idea of individualistic mindsets, while collectivistic worldviews are common among Latin American, Asian, African, and even Middle Eastern cultures. So collectivistic societies emphasize things like relationships, interdependence, let's collaborate, let's have a community, cooperative learning, where individualistic societies emphasize individual achievement. So the question becomes, which are you promoting or highlighting in your classrooms? Are you suggesting that it's more individualistic or collectivistic? And this kind of demonstrates why building community is important. If you look at the survey that we've provided to the right, you can see some results that students provided for a survey transitioning to on ground. And that number one item there talks about how students in the remote learning are longing for that interaction, that connection with other students. So it's not just thinking about it from a theoretical standpoint, but students are saying, hey, we want to have more interaction and more connection with our students, which suggests to the populations and students that we're serving. So very briefly, we want you to think about how can you build, next slide, sorry, Leah. How can you build community in your online courses? So we're not going to give you an example first, but we just want you to really briefly think about that for yourself. So I'm going to place in here a quick link, and you have 2 minutes to just come up with something that stems out from maybe your own activities or assignments and ways you're building community in your classes, or thinking about ways that you're involving multiple identities or cultural backgrounds and knowledges. So if you can go to that link, it'll look similar to what you see on the slide there, and just insert a couple of comments in regards to how you can build community in your online course. And then, yeah, if you hit the next slide, let me see what comes up for you, because then, okay, it is populating somewhat. Good, good. Okay. All right, so we have some comments populating there. Just want to make sure that we're getting all the actual pieces here. Okay, so I see some comments in regards to, are we asking intentional questions? Are we making moments for students to build community? Are we taking survey of students? These are definitely great ways in which we can begin to start building community in our classrooms, because one thing that we must start with is getting to know our students. Leah, if you go to the next slide for me, please. Okay. So some suggestions around, in general, just building community, in addition to what you're articulating here, which is how do we get to know our students? How do we provide space for them to be able to build community, which we could see a little bit in the poll, is we must try to create a community for and by students, okay? So when we're talking about creating a community for and by students, what we mean is we're providing opportunities where we as professors step out of the room and give them an opportunity to be able to share, to engage with one another. We're meeting students where they are. We're asking them with the beginning surveys, what they value and what they seek from our classroom. And we're trying to address those within our classrooms. We're creating intentional moments where they can get on their soapbox and tell us what they already know, because every student who comes to your classroom comes with knowledge, and we have to be able and willing to allow them to be able to share the cultural knowledge and the backgrounds that they come with, okay? We're also making opportunities where they can enable intellectual matchmaking. This means that every student who comes into this classroom, there's in some way, they have some connection with other students. And are we providing opportunities for us to see those similarities and for them to be able to make those connections? Make sure that you're fostering a sense of belonging. Help students to see that they are a part of the classroom community, affirm their belonging in your classroom, and that they are not alone, and that you are there to help them succeed as well as their classmates. Remember, many of our students are coming from cultures where they know that it takes a village or a community, not just an individual, to get through these things. Next slide, Leah. Okay, so I won't go over this in much detail, but this is an activity that I do in my own class where I have students to find up 2 or 3 other students in the classroom that they'll stick with throughout the semester and get to know. And throughout the semester, I insert questions and activities or small tasks in which they do together. Maybe it's just simply saying hello. Maybe it's sending them a motivational quote this week, or maybe it's kind of sharing takeaways from a particular lesson. But this makes them have this community so that the class doesn't seem so large or that they don't feel alone. I can send you the actual wording for this. We have a document that will share the actual wording for this activity. Next slide, Leah. As you can see, we're rushing, we're pushing on time. All right, so the last thing is just scanning your course for whether or not you're building community. I think for the most part, Kevin, do you want to go for that one, or we just skip over this one?
We can just move forward. I mean, we talked about a lot of this already.
Okay, so this one will actually be in the ending resource guide that we provide for you, but it just kind of shares with you ways in which you can reflect on your own course to see if you're implementing some of these things into your practices. Next slide. All right, here we go. So when does our equity journey or our journey begin? It begins now. It's already begun, right? So it's a process. It's always going. And what we want you to leave with is that this is not an overnight process. If you went to the last session, you heard people saying we're always changing things and learning new things. As an educational psychologist, I believe we're always learning, even as educators, right? So this takes time. It takes practice. I don't want you to leave this session being overwhelmed because we threw out a lot of examples and sources to you, but just realize that we have resources here on campus that you can utilize, but we also have many examples on our campus that you can use. But just take it one day at a time and try to implement simple practices when you can. Kevin.
Yes, and obviously simple changes, incremental changes, think about some of the things that you've done today. Think about the activities, the exercises you've done. If you can commit to one simple change, that can make a world of difference for how you go about teaching and your teaching experiences in your classes this semester. Being, an equity-minded educator involves a commitment to lifelong learning, self-reflection and self-critique. It's never an endpoint. We're all in this together. We're all coming from different places, different levels, just like our students. So there's going to be instances where some of these things may not work for you. So you have to be able to reassess, recalibrate, and then try it again. But as mentioned by Erin, we're here to help. So we would like you to fill out a survey. Erin just posted it, a Google link. Please fill it out. Give us your feedback. Give us your key takeaways from this workshop. Erin and I have had extensive conversations about using this as sort of like a launching pad, a launch point to provide more workshops. So if you give us this feedback, tell us what you're interested in. Tell us what your needs are. What are you teaching? All those things. Those will be of great service and help to us so that we can best provide you with even better strategies and tools.
All right, next slide, Leah. So we provided some resources. We also provided a digital notebook with some additional resources. So some examples that we saw, some things that we asked you to reflect on. Even as you're doing that survey, jot down what you tell us so that you can remember to go back to it during the summer when you have time to do this, right? Or in between breaks, like go back to it. We have our email addresses here. If you have any questions, please feel to reach out. We're happy to share examples. I'm sure between both our committees and people on campus, we have many examples that we can share with you. And I want to do one more shout out because this is the first workshop in collaboration with EDC, but also the first workshop for our first year faculty experience. If you're a new faculty member, we really encourage you to come join us so that we can provide more opportunities for you to get together through our year-long program and to share more resources like this, maybe just not related to teaching, but academic support, student support, and mentoring opportunities. So my email address is there if you're interested in that program. And I'm hoping to reach out to you soon because we have a little gift that the campus is putting together for you. So I'll reach out to you soon. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. It was a pleasure.
Right.
And thank you, Erin.
Thank you. We'll stay for a little bit if anybody has questions because we know that we're running out of time.
Yeah.
We ran out of time.
So Erin, I just had a question because I do my syllabus very much, it's welcoming, but more traditional. But then I also have a welcome letter that is really inclusive of students and letting them know how the class functions, that I'm there to support them. But it's not in my syllabus. It's a separate document that I send out to them a couple weeks ahead of time of class. Actually, I send it out twice, like 3 weeks ahead of time and then 1 week ahead of time. So I try to do that instead of, because the syllabus, like it just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. And I really want to make sure that they're understanding what the expectation is of our department, because cosmetology is not as flexible as maybe some other departments. Like students are collecting hours for being in class, and it's a state board mandated thing. So we can't just say, oh, well, if you don't want to come to class today, we're flexible with it. We can't do that.
Right. So what I also do the welcome letter, and Kevin can chime in on this too, Samantha. I also do the welcome letter, but what I've tried to do, I know there are some specific things we have to say in the syllabi, but I've tried to make it in a way that I'm speaking to them, right? I'm not saying as a student, you should. I'm saying together we have to do this, or remember, and I'm trying to make sure that in my tone and my language, I'm speaking to them as if it's that letter, right? My syllabi becomes that letter between us. And I'm saying, I'm here for you, but here's some things that we have to remember we got to do, right? But I'm speaking to them similar to how you probably are in that letter, because many times when we have this, what they call this contract, students kind of skim over it, right? Because the language is so sort of like our contracts, right? Legally. So we just like, yeah. So we want to really engage them and bring them in to even our syllabi.
And just to quickly jump on that, Samantha, like it all starts with what you put on the first page or how you began. So if you notice, like in all the syllabi that you were expected to review, there was things that immediately jumped out. So put yourself in the perspective of a student that's reading a welcome letter, or is looking through your syllabi, or is looking at your course shell. Find ways to make that experience stand out from them from the get-go, because that makes a world of difference for them. You know how it is in the first week, students sign up for classes and then they look at a syllabus or they look at a specific policy as they're skimming through it and they're like, this class is not for me, or this is or it's too intimidating, or this professor appears to be too difficult, too strict. So those are things that you have to be mindful, right? And be real. Like, you have a way of teaching, right? You have a style. Bring that to the language that you use when you create these materials so that the students know who you are. That's so important.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha, for joining.
Yeah,
Samantha's a
but
part of the faculty
support-
committee.
Oh,
so-
awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Support.
We're so excited.
All right.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Samantha.
Bye, Samantha. Okay, and then Salvador, did you have some questions? Do you have a question? No,
Is there going to be an event in this specific room, meeting link?
I have no idea.
The fact that we haven't been booted off means that there's probably not one that has been
Right.
scheduled for this link from 3 to 3:55.
Oh,
Oh, that's it.
sorry. I don't know if that was okay to do, but I removed.
I was gonna say we killed it, and then the boot. It was great. We did it. We had so much. I think.
Remember,
everyone-
still recording too.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we did. I think it went really well. I mean, it was tight. We knew it was gonna be tight when we came into it. But it was nice to see them. It was nice for them to be able to see examples, right?
Mhm.
And then to know that these examples exist so that they can continue to reach out to hopefully us and get more examples, right?
Yeah. I
And
think I think that digital workbook like that, and then the second one, that you created, pulling in all of those resources is going to be great for them, because they could always look at that, and it's, they have all these checklists, all these things that they can start to use.
sure.
And I think that's what we can be doing moving forward, is like creating those deliverables. So like, think about the workshops, the things you're going to be doing, the programming for like your committee, like those
Mhm.
things are so helpful. That's what I would like to capture some of that for our equity resource guide, because the way
Yeah.
that I'm thinking about, we'll have some discussion, is like, I think the goal for our committee is thinking about creating different mini guides that meet
Mhm.
different needs. Like, not just have this one overall guide, right? Create, and to do that, I think we need to figure out